Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all fellow professionals, colleagues, those who are enthusiastic and interested in EV vehicles, EV charging infrastructure, the EV ecosystem, and the energy and mobility transition. I welcome you and extend a very warm thanks to everyone for joining on time, and welcome to today's webinar by IESD. As you may have seen from our registration posters and our posts on LinkedIn, today's webinar focuses on electric vehicles. Future or fad? Where are we headed? This is the second part of our discussion on the future of electric mobility. In part one, we explored the growth of EVs globally and in India, their role in reducing emissions, and the importance of two and three wheelers, opportunities in sectors such as agriculture and railways, and the various challenges and opportunities, whether they be around battery recycling, critical minerals, charging infrastructure, and EV economics. We are very proud to note that part one of this webinar was very well attended, with more than 120 plus participants from more than 40 diverse industries from sectors such as oil and gas, energy, logistics, infrastructure, transport, power. From all those who participated in the previous webinar, a significant number of attendees went on to express interest in IESD's professional certification courses, and we saw multiple enrollments in the EV, biofuels, green hydrogen, and energy transition courses as a result. Today, we want to take this pertinent conversation of the Indian and global EV scenario one step further. The central theme of today's webinar is future outlooks, scalability, and sustainability when it comes to the EV ecosystem. It promises to be a crisp and informative session, and the central question is, what will determine whether EVs can scale successfully between now and 2030? In the process, we will look at economics, technology, batteries, charging infrastructure, supply chains, renewable energy, policy, AI, and the future of mobility. So once again, a very warm welcome. Thank you to everyone for expressing your interest and joining on time for today's webinar. I would like to take a quick 2 minutes to introduce the organizing party for today's webinar, which is India Energy Skill Development Private Limited, or IESD. So IESD is a knowledge services company in the energy sector. IESD focuses on future-oriented training, professional development, and employability in the energy sector. At IESD, we offer programs and learning initiatives covering EV technologies, battery and energy storage systems, hydrogen, green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, carbon capture and utilization systems, sustainability and energy transition, carbon markets, renewable energy, and emerging energy technologies. Through certification programs, masterclasses, and industry-oriented learning initiatives, IESD aims to bridge the gap between academic knowledge and industry requirements to help professionals and young professionals and students build the skills required for this rapidly changing energy landscape. The whole impetus and focus of IESD is on deployability, being industry ready. So whether we all come from backgrounds of engineering and curriculums, IESD focuses on what's next for the energy industry and what skills are needed to be job ready and industry ready. We are also very excited to share a special announcement from IESD on the occasion of today's webinar, which is that IESD is soon launching its new course, which is the EV 3.0 course, designed to help learners and professionals build deeper industry-oriented knowledge of the rapidly evolving electric mobility ecosystem. This new course will cover emerging developments across EV technology, batteries, charging infrastructure, energy transition, and other key areas shaping the future of electric mobility. So this new EV 3.0 course is launching soon. Please do stay connected with us at iesd.in for the official launch announcement and enrollment details. More will be shared regarding the same at the end of today's webinar session as well. So a little bit about myself, in case you're wondering who this random young person is introducing the webinar. My name is Vinayak, and I am a professional with 10 plus years of collective experience across energy, oil and gas, edtech, F&B, and the service industry. And I've had the pleasure and privilege for the last few years of working in the downstream oil and gas sector. wherein I've had the privilege of working with various PSUs and private companies operating in the energy space, which has led me to develop a personal and professional interest in areas such as sustainability, especially carbon credits, energy efficiency, carbon economies, renewables, and of course, EVs and EV charging infrastructure in particular. I would like to take this moment to introduce and welcome our esteemed speaker of the day, Mr. Sanjay Kaul. Mr. Sanjay Kaul is an all-rounded rare example of an energy professional who has seen it all in the various facets of the energy industry and has seen it changing and developing over the last few decades throughout his professional journey. Mr. Sanjay Kaul brings over 35 years of leadership and industry experience and is a subject matter expert in the energy transition, ESG, net zero, and future fuels. He is a specialist in areas such as oil and gas, power, renewable energy, and infrastructure, and has served as an energy practice leader with the Big Four. Mr. Kaul has been instrumental in establishing multiple universities and learning institutions and is himself a fellow of the Energy Institute in the UK. He also advises organizations on sustainability, energy strategy, and the future ready business transformations required for this rapidly changing landscape. So, welcome, Mr. Kaul, and thank you for sparing your valuable time today. Before we enter the moderated part of the discussion today with the question answers, I would like to hand over to you if you would please kindly provide us an overview of the current EV landscape and the industry and its trends as it stands today, drawing from your considerable professional experience and exposure to the industry. So, very welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Vinayak. I hope I'm audible to all the participants. A warm welcome. First of all, we would like to acknowledge the effort put in by the IESD team to put such thought platforms together. Secondly, considering that in 1899 to 1900, in that decade, almost 38% of all vehicles in America were electric. Let us also applaud that so long ago, almost 125, 30 years, there is a lot of pioneering work gone in electric vehicles, which of course was overtaken by hydrocarbon sector because of the efficient ecosystem it could create over a period of time, and the international trade routes which it could establish and technological platforms it could develop. So in a way, there is a blueprint available for EV vehicles, and there is and the technology is on its side. So given that in about 10-15 minutes we need to context, we discussed in detail the worldwide trends, the technology aspects, the breakup of EV segments in part one, which of course must be available on the IESD website as a recording. But in two, one would like to focus more on, okay, so far so good, where does one go? Or where is one likely to end up in the next 5 years or 10 years? So today, if we look at the world, we see some sort of headlines. One is, of course, that the EV is not ruling as far as a segment is concerned, but it certainly has come to rule as far as new vehicle purchase trends are seen. Today, almost 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, if we say new vehicle sales all over the world, it might be a two-wheeler, it might be a three-wheeler, it might be a four-wheeler or a six-wheeler, but 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 is a good number that it has arrived, and it has a demand and it is being bought and being used. The beyond that, the data is quite skewed. It's quite uneven. For example, China is the overwhelming leader when it comes to vehicle exports, or controlling 19 out of 20 strategic minerals which get into batteries and in vehicle manufacturing. And the other part is that lithium ion battery, which is still to prove itself in plus 50 degrees centigrade environment, where we fall on the equator, is still the most dominant battery being used. However, it always happens if you use a particular component in either solar panels or in any component, the prices become a geopolitical and a very troublesome issue. So we've seen rise in prices of what goes into lithium ion battery, especially cobalt. Within a year, 130% rise. So what we are saying is, worldwide, while EV is growing either through regulatory pressure, or it is stuttering or not growing because incentives are suddenly withdrawn, like it happened in US, or India, where a mass market always look for the daily cost reduction rather than the capital cost. The running cost, is more important. So three-wheeler and two-wheelers have just taken off. So worldwide, there is the EV market has arrived. Has arrived. However, its development is very, very sensitive. Most cases it is skewed, in the sense it's uneven, and largely regulatory and incentive driven. So that's what we can see on a headline basis as far as globally it is concerned. Can we India? There is a slide. Can you shift to the next slide? So India's market is very uneven, as I was saying, but mass market. If you add up three-wheelers and two-wheelers, that's the market. I mean, hardly 8% cars plus all other vehicles together. The rest of the purchase, new purchase, is for the mass market items, like, and almost very, very nominal or very minor heavy passenger market, where the growth should be in a populous in a heavily populated country like India. We have railway as a very good example, which has been 100% electric. Metros are all electric. So, in fact, when we talk of quick and efficient transportation in the hills, we talk of trolley cars, which are again electric mode of transportation. The future is of drones, which is again battery and EV. So if you see that for a country like us, the real economic benefit linked to directly our GDP lies in the heavy passenger, heavy freight segment, whether it is for our energy security or our environment, or the benefits of actually having transportation and logistics work. So it will be a dream come true that from ambulances to fire tenders are electric. So that would that should be the dream. A growing country or a heavily populated country like India should see. So as far as India EV market is concerned, this is only growing, really growing fast into the mass markets segments, and of course with many challenges. Can we go to the next slide, please? So if we really see the challenges within the Indian market today, is that of course it is skewed. But in a way it is positive. Like if the more number of people buy, whether they're buying three-wheelers or they're buying two-wheelers, but if the new buy of an EV, it does create a market, it creates an ecosystem, it creates the charging infrastructure, it creates awareness to go in for maybe cars or buses, or or creation of skills, creation of nodal centers for engineering, supply, and all the best example of two-wheelers is the delivery thing, the way it has revolutionized the home delivery or the retail delivery segment. So it is growth, but the needle moves when you move into the heavy segment. Vehicle cost is still a challenge, and the dream of any EV market, or when the CNG etc. started, was a price parity as far as the capital cost is concerned. So that's some distance away, because most of the vehicles are still in R&D stage and the scale is not there. Battery ecosystem is really struggling in India, as we know that, as against the announcement of almost 178 gigawatt hour, we only have 1.4, far beyond what we need, even under the ACC PLI scheme. And of course, the states need to catch up with the center much more than it is now, in terms of schemes, subsidies, incentives, creating the ecosystem within the state, forcing the state government agencies to adopt this thing, giving benefits, subsidies. So the states has not gone, but we cannot see them do this exclusively, because there's so many other things to look after, even including alternate fuels like hydrogen, solar, wind, and a lot of, they have to even look at data centers, and there is a lot of future which is at stake within the states, including water being a big challenge within the states. So the EV drive has to wait its turn and its intensity over a period of time. However, despite all this, what the projections are telling us is that by 2030, 1 in 4 vehicles in India would also be an EV. And we would see considerable amount of e-buses and even light freight vehicles like LCVs, etc. And also a lot of battery systems being localization programs. My biggest scare, of course, is recycling. However, that is still there from plastics to everything else. But we are in the process of creating the largest recycling challenge India has ever seen when we talk about EVs as well. So in terms of giving an overview, this is how, not that it covers everything, but and for that you probably, the participants have to go through the entire program by enrolling in it. But the main points, the way I see it, the spotlight on India is within these points. Can we go to the next slide, please? See, India's fuel dependence is pretty robust. We are the largest exporters of uh, petroleum products. We have um, almost uh, almost 1.5 times of refining capacity. We have 100,000 places from where you buy petrol, diesel, all sorts of payment mechanisms. I don't think there is a corner in the country where you can't refuel your vehicle or can't get it repaired. So this is something to be celebrated and appreciated as well. Now, EV has to stand up to this. So that is why one needs to look at. But it is also the biggest opportunity, like solar was to power or any other means of power generation. However, 40 crore vehicles versus 50 lakh vehicles can be seen either both ways, either as a big opportunity of 1.25% of 100%, or also when you compare it that uh, you know 1 in 5, 1 in 6 vehicles are already EV. That means EV has begun to tilt the new vehicle buy figures. So it doesn't have to replace what already is there. It just have to dominate the new vehicle buy, which is not difficult to do so. So in a way, its road is reserved for it. That get into the new buy side for the customers. There is no need to, however, use and collaborate with the infrastructure which the hydrocarbon sector has created for you. Use the regulations, the incentives, the customer acceptance, the per day cost, low per day cost attraction for it to that. So it's a very unique position which we need to understand, that EV is not actually competing with the 50 crore vehicles. It is competing with the lakhs of new vehicles which get bought every year. So that is where the opportunity lies. Can we and the challenge in that is taking an ecosystem approach, not EV approach. EV would come and the new EV will be better than the last one. The new battery will be better than the last one. The charging facility available last month would be this month facility will be better than that. The apps, the lease option, the buying options will always be better than the last month, the last year. However, whether we are sitting in the government, whether we are a buyer of an EV vehicle, whether we are a fleet operator, whether we are a skill-based organization which is looking at, okay, what kind of people it will require, whether we are at a place where we want to do a startup, we have to see that are we taking an integrated ecosystem approach, and this ecosystem needs to be debottlenecked individually to work with all other components. We can't have the electricity pricing fight with government policy and import norms, or the vehicle pricing and or the OM supply chain fight with replacement rate and vehicle growth, or we getting into a situation where the CNG companies suddenly become very threatened by the EV because their gas sales will drop. If they are partners, they can switch to charging and in the same ecosystem. I think the same people who fitted CNG retrokits by the thousands can be trained, or there could be R&D to retrofit vehicles with electric motors and battery technologies over a period of time. But that's the direction to go. That each of this component needs to be understood and worked upon. And if I am entering this business today, or if I'm buying an EV today, I need to understand that each of this component would affect me, not only one. And I have even not labeled the ones which are common to all, whether it is geopolitics or it's so many other factors. I have only taken those which are specific to EVs. And mind you, in all of this, the leapfrogging of technologies is always there. I mean, we've always seen that. For example, I am betting big personally, and that's my personal opinion, not an academic opinion, on more on drones than on actual vehicles on the ground, because that's the most ideal EV one could see, and I have actually dedicated an entire slide on that. But it's like, cable technology came first, and each cable was going, and then there were dishes on the roof, and now you get it through the internet. So it's like betting on the internet based systems at the time when you were not even got the cable in your house to watch soap operas. So the beautiful part of EV ecosystem is that all the, when you're talking of battery, the aluminum one has already come, the sodium ion is already there. So it's like everything is available, but not to that scale, or not to that model, or not to that customized level. Whether it is technology, payments, charging, all of those technologies, nobody is saying that 10-minute charging is not possible. They are saying it is not possible now. So today it is possible to bet on future with some certainty and in the shorter time. My computer is showing that internet thing is unstable. Am I audible properly, Vinay?
Yes, completely audible. Thank you.
So can we go to the next slide, please? Slide is not changed yet. So it is better when you see challenges as well as you see opportunities in them. One of the opportunity one has, which we are doing right now, is skill development. I think any professional who would know more about EV or hydrogen or what's coming, or satellite communication would do well, or AI applications would do well. So when one is creating ecosystems, I think skill, tools, facilities to facilitate, I think that person, whoever can create a battery without the strategic minerals, would be the next Einstein. So whether it is research, whether it is repair, maintenance, OEM, R&D, um, sales. I mean, even an ordinary car salesman cannot sell an EV vehicle. It requires a different set of skills to sell. I mean, it's a different psychology. One is, and a huge number of startup opportunities are available. Uh, the way the three-wheeler and two-wheeler segment um, has taken off clearly says that people just walked into that business next day and started showrooms, started assembling it, starting getting kits from China. And today there are people who have got 500 e-rickshaws, which they are leasing at 700 rupees a day. And it's like a para-banking operation with an app, with medical facilities for this thing, charging facilities mounted on e-rickshaws with a generator set. It's amazing. I mean, it's the way, it's like the retail revolution. So a huge number of startup opportunities available. There is a lot of integration needs to happen. Highways are a open opportunity with their challenges, of course. And of course, creating interesting parts in this ecosystem. I think in 60 months, everybody knows that recycling would be a problem. Recycling would require higher level of engineering than it is required to produce or run an EV or maintain an EV. Extraction of minerals from there, maybe retrofitting it, etc. So now is the time to get into that, for the next 60 months. And not forgetting that Elon Musk took 17 years to his car. So, so 5 years is nothing to get into this. Cost, again, is an opportunity where finance and banking and even commercial banking can create a lot of products, options, insurances. I'm sure that the mediclaim of a battery vehicle will be very different from a normal vehicle. And of course, the resale value is very problematic for this thing. So in this area, a lot of work is required. EV is a perfect vehicle for optimization, and it creates a lot of opportunities. 4 vehicles could be leased by 10 people and still be optimized, because what a car does all day is only run for 1 or 2 hours, which means that its usage, average car usage in India is less than 4%, which can tell you that how badly this asset is unoptimized. So there is a lot of day cost basis models. There needs to be a sort of almost self-drive Uber facility for this kind of this thing, but it will take time to come. But there is a lot of opportunity. There is a retrofitting opportunity waiting to happen, like it happened in CNG. A lot of people today don't see it possible, but overseas it has already begun happening. Lot of chases are already available, and the only thing is the power, the drivetrain, the batteries, and the other equipment, and a lot of retrofitting is available. Today, cars are being scrapped for 10 years, 15 years, and that's steel. And the recycling cost is far greater than retrofitting cost. So there is a opportunity. There is a huge amount of space and facilities available, from panwalas to haveliwalas to restaurant owners. And like the BNB has turned millions of properties into BNB properties, why not there is a BNB there for charging facility being available? So I have listed few to tackle cost, but there I see a lot of opportunities in managing cost. And of course, cost is a factor of scale. And like every other technology, I'm sure that one day maybe in 3 years or 5 years, 6 years, the cost of a EV vehicle will be in parity with the cost of a IC engine vehicle. Charging infra, of course, is comes with a lot of opportunities, whether it is swapping facilities, possibilities for hybrid vehicles, mobile charging. As I told you, it's already happening. You have a charging van, plug up your rickshaw and all. It has got a BESS mounted on it, so even a fuel generator is there. So I'm sure that the amount of infrastructure opportunity in this area, and one has to focus. If one starts focusing on the fleet operation and considering that 80% of the retail goods are moving on the road, so one could see a huge potential in terms of freight, which is hub and spoke, means not the heavy one, but when it is distributed after reaching a particular hub spot. Could we get on to the next slide, please, on challenges and opportunities? Safety again. I mean, the safety is there for all technologies. I think when CNG got started, there is a recent tragedy which has happened where somebody allegedly has fitted some extra tanks in the truck, and it got in Delhi. There was an accident. However, the beauty of EV technology is that it can straight away adopt ONG standards and go beyond. So there is already an infrastructure, and it comes with an advantage of AI. The way AI can stop, scan, alert, give alarm, and prevent sort of, and these systems are coming built in batteries and in dashboards and in so many other things. They are independently downloadable as well off the shelf. So I think HSC again, though, is a challenge. But however, in successive models, a lot of precautions are happening, as it happens with any new technology. And today it is as safe as any other technology. Regulation policy incentives, again, a challenge, that it could be to and fro there. It could be uneven. States may not be there. However, it also requires you to build an independent business model, which is ultimately not dependent on these incentives or regulations. And of course, if one actually gets into manufacturing, then phasing it out like Tesla did, or anyone, or Mahindra is doing, or other manufacturing, that one goes in stages. And the aim should be to ultimately reach mass market and profitable operation, minus the incentives. So if one plans it right, there is an opportunity to be in a new business, which in terms of new purchases is winning much faster than compared to its competition. OEMs, of course, is another challenge, that a lot of stuff is getting imported. Its components are not available here. And it's actually an advantage to start with, minus the geopolitics. The way we have seen the e-rickshaw revolution, that in fact, not a single component was bought from one single buyer. It started with a full e-rickshaw coming in a kit, but then there were at least 6 different imports to assemble one. The other thing is, a lot of this is dual or multi-use. The opportunity is that you can get into agro, you can get into a lot of other things, because the same technology, same battery, same powertrain works on multiple equipment. So when you get into the EV part, you're also getting into a lot of associated systems where you can get into You can get into BESS, and the entire inverter sector is available for you for that matter. Anything which needs to move, anything where the mobility is required, one can get into. I can see that I have taken a lot of time solo. I would like to give Vinayak an opportunity. Can you get into the next slide to see if I have left anything? So some of the potential game changers, as I say, that getting into EVs also means getting into agriculture sector, mass passenger vehicles, which is the new future, um, drones, bi-directional charging, where you have vehicles charging homes, home charging vehicles, or vice versa. Quick recharge is another emerging sector. Carbon trade benefits could be another game changer. The moment by using a car or EV, you start getting benefits and points, and they are tradable, it actually becomes a cash benefit. And of course, I don't think that day is far when this will start happening, since carbon trade is now getting into its regulatory and legislative phase. And of course, uh, the dream is of price parity with other vehicles, and it's a technology multiplier everywhere. The EV platform, and out of all the challenges of geopolitics and health and battery, when I talk of health, I talk about this uh, the radiation, which is a point of debate, which the batteries cause, and there is a lot of debate which is happening around it. That is it safe for humans, and that is not very different that how much radiation the cellular phones are creating or the towers are creating, and many other technologies on that. And of course, security. If there is a kill switch, and in your a lot of drones and etc. is flying, and uh, can your economy be, or can your defense equipment or critical equipment can be suddenly switched off or jammed? That is another challenge normally EVs face, that remotely controlled in a destructive or in a negative manner. So that is again a aspect which it requires a little more work. So over to you, Vinayak. I have tried to give a sort of a brief overview. I am sure the program will, if people enroll in the program, it will do much more justice. But um, drones, of course, is my ultimate dream, that it will surpass any other mobility which we as a human species has ever. It has already proven itself in wars, but that is unmanned part of it. But passenger vehicles, freight, I think, of course, there are many challenges. Since this is on EV, I just wanted to give a glimpse of that. I would request now you, Vinayak, if you would like to ask me any questions. And of course, it is on you. How do you maintain the time from now on?
Thank you so much for the informative industry overview, a very rich wealth of knowledge from various perspectives and facets, which I think helped in bridging the gap from part one and bringing us into part two. Whereas in part one of the webinar, we had asked whether electric vehicles are the future or simply a fad. That was the start of the conversation. And we did acknowledge and identify the strong momentum in this space and the accompanying challenges of economics, infrastructure, batteries, recycling, and critical minerals. Today, I feel that instead of repeating or adding to that discussion, we have taken on entirely new aspects of e-mobility and the future scalability. In fact, I think if anyone is receptively listening to the industry overview, they would have picked up that no doubt EVs are going to become, and they are already a big part of our transportation system and our industries. And it seems that if you are receptive, you will pick up what will actually determine future success and adoption is a variety of factors such as battery technology, charging infra, economics, government policy, critical minerals, dependency, supply chains, and integration with renewables. So thank you for the overview, and it was very eye-opening for me personally, and I think for the attendees to listen about some of the Indian trends, the global trends, the battery challenge, the drone, I think applications, and the other game changers, the geopolitical factions. It was a very rich overview, and of course, thank you for the opportunity to ask some of my moderator questions. The first question I would like to ask you, Mr. Kaul, is about EV adoption specifically in the Indian context. Your overview presentation included a very excellent slide which summarized the major Indian trends such as percentage of vehicle sales, the EV pricing and cost spectrum, total battery ecosystem capacity, and national programs and incentives such as the PM e-drive scheme, highway electrifications, etc. So the question is, in India, what do you believe needs to happen next for EVs to move from strong early adoption to genuine mass scale adoption? And what do you think would likely be the biggest limiting factor or could be a limiting factor? Could it be cost, infrastructure, consumer confidence, the accompanying technology, or policy?
Well, I don't see an EV sort of thing where tomorrow, it will be so, it will have a breakthrough thing that, one in two vehicle is EV. In any of the technologies or turnarounds we have seen in India, whether from privatization, banking, insurance, cellular, and any other things. These sudden changes in something which affects a home, a person, a purse, the economy, the legislation, the policy, things will be gradual. But we are gradually seeing that these cycles are faster and faster. And the latest example is solar, renewable. The way it has gone, the way it has scaled up, the way the technologies have been at fast rate adopted, the way highest offices have got into it and launched nationwide schemes onto it. So I don't see a charisma happening in EV or in battery technologies, because the ecosystem must evolve first. And that's why I spend time on the ecosystem. So that is one part. The second part is that segment by segment, the ecosystem has to go. If we have done enough on two-wheeler and three-wheelers, I think four-wheelers will take its time, that's cars, and it will take time. But the government focus should and has shifted and should shift to buses and freight. Railway is a very good example, 100% electrification with dedication and whatever. So I think, but for that, states have to participate. So I think states' participation in heavy sector and heavy passenger sector, and one segment which we have 7 oil and gas companies, both in upstream and downstream. We have power companies, which has a stake in this. I think we still have a very good PSU and private base of players who already are pan-India, and they know the business and the streets and the gullies and the agri segments and the retail segments and the metro segments. I think they should be encouraged, incentivized, and even given legislative support to get into this business on a big basis, so they don't see it as a competition. They see it as an extension of their portfolio into a larger energy segment. How that will happen, some policymakers and some heavy captains of the industry has to get into that. So I would like to see an oil company directly getting in touch as an integrator with a manufacturer, with a retailer, with a OEM, into providing a concentrated. By the way, the automobile companies have already started doing that. I mean, today, Suzuki is giving you end-to-end, charging stations, the support, on-road support, battery recycling, even guarantees for 8 years, 6 years. So all that is happening. But the mega players need to see that as an extension of their portfolio to India rather than segment players of manufacturers, OEMs, etc.
Thank you. That was a very informative answer. And in fact, your answer included some of the follow-up things that I wanted to ask about the mobility transition, how you see the role of different segments and vehicle types. So it was a very comprehensive answer. I think I'll jump straight to what I wanted to ask you about the whole EV ecosystem, which includes charging infrastructure. It includes our country's power grid and the role that renewable energy has to play. So the question I would like to ask is, what do you think is the biggest infrastructure challenge facing EV adoption? Is the focus on this kind of hawa, this madness that we have about the number of charging stations and the coverage on highways? Do you think that is warranted? Do we need to think differently about where, how, and when vehicles are charged? What is your take on trends such as fast charging, battery swapping, charging at offices, workplaces, and homes? And finally, the crux of the question is, what impact do you think as we move towards mass adoption of EVs? What impact would it have on India's existing power system? Because it is a well known fact that EVs are perhaps only as clean as the energy which is used to charge them. So, how important do you think the integration of EVs with renewable energy is going to become? Can EVs ultimately down the line become part of a battery storage transfer system rather than just being independent vehicles or units? So this is just my question to you about the future of the.
Well, considering that you're actually asking this question for your generation, for your entire generation. And that is why I give a lot of weight to this question. I think what we are doing is preparing for this question. We have not reached this question. I think if I try and answer that question, it won't be fair. It will be more of a guesswork or a forecast or a wager on the future. See, the fact is we are a country which is producing dirty electricity, which is 76% of our this thing. More number of EVs means more fuel to be burned, more coal to be burned. We are just displacing environment, right? So what we are doing is we are critically importing all components for EV and battery. That's not fair. I mean, it's we can be blackmailed at any point of time. It's again going back to oil, right? Where again a Strait of Hormuz or again a defiant exporter, not honoring its commitment. So what is happening is that every 3 months we are seeing in India overcoming a particular challenge, either of charging, either of technology, or of import, or of legislation, or of a policy, or a state getting onto the bandwagon, or a giga factory which is putting up its own solar, which is putting up hydrogen all at one place, etc. We have already broken the barrier as far as renewable energy is concerned. Technically, the installed capacity is almost 50% of the thing. It is the actual load factor which is giving the burden to coal. So maybe next year, same time, somehow this question could be attempted. From here to now, it is more of adoption. If EV only continues to ride and better from 1:5 or 1:6 to 1:4 in India, then it will reach a mass. I mean, I'm saying the moment it crosses 5% of the total, which is not far, right? I think the way, if I say the natural gas took 25 years, it will not take more than 6 to 8 years to get there. 2 to 3 years have already gone. So from next year, we would start seeing that what are the ultimate breakthroughs which happens in battery. Or see, the thing is, we've already got a vehicle which is claiming 800 kilometers or 700 kilometers. So, 10-minute charging we know can happen, but we have faster chargers doing it in an hour. So that's a break, 8 hours overnight, etc. So we are at a threshold. I think next year it will be easier to answer your question, because one could get definite data backup and extrapolate it to what's going to happen in the next 3-4 years. But two things I'm watching in the coming year to happen: do the states join, and what happens on this installed capacity, which is, there is a huge major gap between what the government incentive is and what's actually getting installed, because a lot of already four PLI based manufacturers already there. How many are there within a year? Because a lot of licenses have gone, a lot of permissions have gone. So let's watch this space next year. But nothing stops the participants on this program or the people at large, the professionals, to start learning about EVs and battery technologies and carbon trade and onto that, because that is the future of the coming decade.
Thank you. That's a very well-rounded answer, which I think instills a lot of cautious optimism in this generation. Look at the future and the interplay between the power grid and the role of renewables versus dirty energy in a balanced way. So I will take heed what you've said and keep an eye on the upcoming trends and how it goes down. So now I would say the decision is yours. If you're comfortable with a stretch up until 5:10, I'll ask more moderator questions. If not, I can just take some questions from the audience and bring the session towards its closure. What would you prefer?
I think we should honor the audience by at least one question from the audience.
Sure. So I'll hold on to, even though I had a lot of questions as the moderator, and this is a very exciting topic. I'll move on to the audience question, and I'm very thankful to all those who have registered and shared their views and thoughts in the comments. I can see questions which we've received from multiple people: Bharat Bhatia ji, GK, Anand ji, Jayant ji, around a similar vein. So I'll consolidate what they have asked. And I think one consensus is around, people are asking what is the biggest mistake that India or any country or countries can make while planning for mass EV adoption.
No country can make any mistake in a new technology. Trying is everything. It is like asking what mistake. See, when you're trying, when you're putting cables in people's home, and that too without legislation, it is being beamed from Singapore, not even in that. So that's how technologies come. So I don't think it can make a mistake. It will know its mistake only by trying, by giving out, by allowing EVs to come. One or two scooters will burn, right? It is permissible. Care should not be taken. Geopolitics will play. Then only you will know, okay, the strategic minerals you require, how you can be arm twisted on that. How cobalt can jump if you depend too much on lithium ion. How fast you can go to sodium ion. So the fact is, whenever you are answering the call of higher purpose, ultimately what is the planet's trying to do? It is fighting climate change. It has done some commitments towards the planet. So when you attempt that as a democracy, as a user, and I'm also not expecting that today you and me will go out and buy an EV because we are champions for climate change, because we fully know that it will be the coal we will be using in another form, that is in electricity. This battery will create what we are using more recycling harm for the planet than we anticipate right now, because maybe the recycling will not reach in 5 years where we want it to reach. However, we have to take that step in that direction. I'll give you an example very quickly. We are running out of time, about this Bharat 1, Bharat 2, Bharat stage, various lead free and then better fuel, where the refineries were not ready. So much of millions and millions of dollars went in upgrading refining to get better vehicles. Same strict thing was put on vehicle emissions, the pollution control, the change in engine technology. That when we grew up, it was normal to see plumes of smoke coming out of trucks and vehicles and wherever you go. Today, you see relatively clean cars coming, a lot of gas usage. So there has been a lot of transitions people have already gone into, and many mistakes have happened when you are doing that. So the biggest mistake would be later, will be known only later on. Like when you dug in the Arctic Circle, you found out that lead is the biggest enemy, and we did that for 40, 50 years without realizing that, and we were enjoying the hydrocarbon vehicles. I think it's not a question of what is the biggest mistake. It is doing it right, which is debottleneck each of the ecosystem. If we don't approach it like an ecosystem, each of the component I have shown needs to be tackled differently. That is one. States need to get on with it, with the center. The psychological issues, whether it is relating to health, real issues, whether it is relating to security, HSC, etc. All that needs to be addressed if we want it to be successful.
Thank you. Thank you for the well-rounded answer. Again, a very encouraging and future-oriented answer. And with that, I think thank you to everyone for today's webinar, in which we started the webinar by asking electric vehicles whether they are the future or is it a fad. And by the end, as we approach the end of the webinar, we have taken that question further, and we have actually explored what will determine the future of electric mobility, whether it's battery technology and recycling, charging infrastructure, critical minerals, economics, renewable energy, AI policy, or new mobility segments or different segments. It is clear to all of us by now that the EV transition is much larger than simply replacing an ICE engine, a combustion engine, with an electric motor. The coming years will be important not only for the automotive industry, but also for industries like energy, infrastructure, technology, and skill sectors. So with that, on behalf of IESD and all of the attendees, I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Sanjay Kaul for sharing your experience, insights, and various perspectives today. I would also like to thank the entire IESD team for their efforts in organizing and facilitating this webinar. Finally, a special thank you to everyone who has attended, registered, and participated the second part of our webinar today, for joining us and making this discussion interactive through your questions and participation. Just before we close, I would like to reiterate the exciting announcement from IESD on today's occasion of the webinar that the EV Course 3.0 is launching. If today's discussion and the questions have sparked your interest in electric vehicles, batteries, and charging infrastructure, and the broader energy transition, this new EV 3.0 course will be an opportunity to take that learning much further through a structured, industry-ready program. So please do stay connected with us for the official launch date, course details, and enrollment information, all of which you can find on iesd.in, iesd.in. That's our website. We will look forward to welcoming you to the EV 3.0 course, as well as any other programs that are aimed at the future energy industry. So thank you so much for everyone who's joined in. Thank you to the speakers, and the recording of this webinar will be available on our website and on our social media. Any questions that we could not answer, we'll like to take up in the post show notes or address them in future events. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you.